All right, so let's get this link going real quick. Perfect. Copy link and post it. All right, all right, all right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to some of you, perhaps. My name is Asael Campos. I am with the Alpha Strike. I will be your host tonight. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest. We have WizKids game designer Brian Galley with us here to chat, talk about how to play HeroClix, any questions you guys may have from any experience level. Brian, how are you doing?
Hi, so doing great. Happy to be here. Looking
Thank
forward to some of these questions.
Yes, absolutely. So we're just gonna have a nice time chatting, super laid back, casual. Let's have fun with it. We have a lot of questions for you lined up, Brian. So be prepared for
All
that.
right.
But I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more. What does your role entail? What does your day and day look like? And maybe a little bit how you started playing HeroClix. Maybe the way you learned how to play HeroClix would be nice to know.
All right. Yeah, mentioned before, I'm Brian Galley. I'm the lead designer for Heroclix, which, ironically, means I do design very few actual figures for Heroclix. Mostly, I just make sure that all the other designers are on target. All the figures are kind of gelling together. The set works as a set, and just keeping the whole ship running smoothly.
Absolutely.
Started playing HeroClix. Oh, Jesus, this is going to date me a little bit. Back during Teen Titans, which is longer ago than I care to think about. um, so that's one of the less popular sets, but still got a warm spot in my heart. Just
Absolutely.
the um, had a couple friends that were playing HeroClix, and just kind of dragged me along to the game store one day. Just it more or less threw me to the wolves. Like I handed a powers and abilities card, a 5-minute rundown on the basics, and I fell in love with the game. It's
I about being thrown to the wolves, just baptized by fire, all that good stuff.
yeah.
I kind of prefer that sometimes. I feel like it's
Mhm.
you lose 5 games in a row and you're like, you know what, I can't lose to this guy anymore. I want to learn how to play. I want to get better. I want to buy the better pieces. I want to trade for the better pieces. And that's kind of what gets that little hunger going for HeroClix. At least that was kind of my experience. Maybe it was for you as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, learning the game early on. So the way I learned a little bit about myself is I'm a fairly new player, so I haven't been playing for very long. I started right after Avengers Forever, so right before Batman Team Up. So that was literally around the beginning of 2024. And one of my friends from El Paso, he's got Golden Age figures now. He doesn't keep up with
Oh
the
yeah.
current modern, but he had Golden Age figures. So he was playing against me and Diego, another local player of mine, a friend of mine. He was playing the Bat Belt. I'm sure if you remember the
Oh,
Bat Belt.
yep.
So I still don't even know what it does. I don't even want to know what it does, but I know that we're losing every game back to back, back to back. So we're going on
it.
eBay, going like, what's meta for HeroClix? My friend bought the Legacy Thanos that had just been Legacy at the time. I didn't want to spend that much on the game in the beginning, so I would just buy some random boosters, and I got the super rare Sentry from Avengers Forever. He was pretty good. But that's just kind of like this the same hunger that I mentioned, where you lose a couple games, you're like, oh, I want to get them back. So that's kind of fast forward to 2 years, I'm here, right? So that's
Yeah.
it worked out. It worked out. But we got people trickling in. Hello, Wesley, Mark, Ignis, Garrett, David, Scantley, Ken, Aaron Morgan, Mark, and my girlfriend's in the chat as well. Hello, everybody. Hello. So yeah, if you guys remember from Worlds, I was out there with Dial H, and we had Brian on the Clicks couch with us, and we were picking his
Yeah.
brain a little bit as much as possible. So he is a familiar face to the channel. Welcome back, Brian. Thank you
Yeah.
for once again. I'm gonna thank you all evening. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been
No,
an honor.
happy to be here. Love getting my brain picked.
There you go. There you go. A little change of pace from working, and let's have a little bit of fun and relax. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. So yes, the How To series has just wrapped up yesterday. A little bit of behind the scenes on that as people trickle in, and before we do our first giveaway. That's something I had been working with WizKids for about since August or so. So we're like 4 or 5 months now, and it really initially began when I started looking through the WizKids website and I saw that they had a how to tab, and I clicked that, and the video is a couple years old, definitely before my time, and I didn't really recognize much of what the individual was talking about because so much has changed since then. So I thought, how cool would it be to revamp that? We get new. I'm sure WizKids or Heroclix gets new players on a daily basis, realistically. So they're always on YouTube, on Google. How to play Heroclix. Maybe they can have some sort of channel or YouTube video to help them, pick it up a little bit. And there have been really really good videos, I will say, but none that I feel that really just kind of grabbed them and just taught them everything and then let them go into the wild. Like it was just like, okay, here's the power, and then here's how you break away and all that good stuff. So that's when I reached out to WizKids, and they were super helpful as far as like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. And through a lot of emailing back and forth, where should I take the videos? How intricate? How in depth should I go? Is really kind of what the conversation was at the beginning, because they talked about how you don't want these videos to be like an hour long, right? You don't want these videos to be like one video and just 2 hours long on how to play Hero, because you want these segments short and sweet, 8 to 12 minutes of like, hey, you know what, today we're going to talk about this, so that in the future if you need to go back and watch those videos, like, oh, I forgot how to build a team. Well, there's a specific video just all revolving around that topic. So that was the kind of the smart way to go about it. And here we are after about like I said, 4 or 5 months of deliberation and re-recordings and edits. We are here now. So massive shout out to WizKids as well for letting me do that, and to the community. You guys have been phenomenal. I've been getting messages from players here locally, from players from Argentina, from Italy, from Canada, with Ice Station Zebra. They have been very, very nice to me throughout the series, and they all appreciate it. So I'm glad that was the reception from a lot of these players and people I look up to. So thank you to the community for that as well. But let's see. Okay, so we do have some questions here already lined up. So before we go into the questions, I want to lay out two rules really quick. They're also in the description of this video. Rule number one: there are no silly questions. Ask anything. Because this is a how to play Heroclix live stream, we want to make sure that regardless of your experience level, you can learn how to play the game. So we'll be talking about standard powers and how they work up, and from any experience level to up until like very competitive with like equipment, and how does this work with this, and game elements, mix and match. So there's no silly questions. Feel free to ask anything you want. Don't be shy. I'm sure Brian has no problem talking about blades, claws, fangs.
Not at all. I've been a judge for a long time in this game. I am happy to answer any question.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. I'm sure the community appreciates you for that as well. And also, you can catch Brian on some of the Facebook groups sometimes answering some rules questions here and there. So he blesses the community here and there every once in a while. I think yesterday was the last one I saw as well with
this was the Black Panther deity avatar stuff. Yeah.
So we always appreciate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I try to pop in when I can. It's
no, I do appreciate that, because that's when I know when Brian comments and has an answer for something. I know that's the real, that's the answer.
You should always take it with a grain of salt. I am not the final rules arbiter for Heroclix.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I have been wrong in the past. Not often, but
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, if it's not on the win, it's not official.
There you go. There you go. Now I do have a question on the win later in the stream. We'll get into
All
that
right.
because I'm sure new players have no idea what that means, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's a good question to start with. So I'm going to start asking a couple. I'm sorry. That was the first rule of tonight. The second rule is before we go into the questions, is Brian is, as he mentioned, the head gameplay designer. So gameplay designer. So we want to make sure that the questions that are being asked revolve around his expertise, first of all, and that we aren't asking anything that he just simply can't answer, right? So let's make sure that we're valuing his time and make sure that asking questions that we know that he can possibly answer, and let's not get about other HeroClix type of questions, to say the least. So let's try our best, guys in the ladies and gals in the chat, to ask questions around gameplay. All right, so let's see. We got a question from Mark Wright. He says, "Are we going to see indie style comics become clicks again, like Judge Dredd and Hellboy?"
I would love to start dipping back into stuff outside of just DC and Marvel. I mean, I love DC and Marvel, don't get me wrong, but getting a little variety in there is always great. That said, that's an issue that the lawyers have to work out.
Yeah.
I can't really comment on exactly what, but yeah, I would love to get to work on some of that stuff.
It's funny how I lay out that second rule about only asking him questions about
Yeah,
gameplay, and then I ask him about other. That's just awesome. Let's start the stream off right.
yeah. I mean, we have just branched out to D&D clicks. You know, we're always looking to reach out, start doing more stuff. There might be some stuff in the pipeline, but
Yeah, and even to piggy off that answer, I know that at Gen Con, Jake, John, and Ryan had a little panel where they were asking everybody in the audience to pitch some ideas of what they want to see in Click. So I know that WizKids is very open to reach out to different IPs and different licenses for clicks, especially if that's what the community wants. So that's a great answer. I do agree, and like you said, D&D is out now, so it's definitely something they are doing, right? Scanty asks, as a returning player, I absolutely love legacy cards. Me too, Scanty. Bringing old figs back to modern with fun mechanics is amazing. I noticed they are not part of every set. Any plans to expand on legacy cards?
so that's a bit of a tricky question to answer. They're not part of every set for a couple of reasons that I can't really get into. But we know the legacy cards are always a big hit when they come out. We try to get them in wherever we can. We are looking into a couple, I don't want to say not legacy type legacy cards for the times we can't do legacies. So a little bit of that later, but again, can't comment on stuff that's not too far out.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, besides legacy cards, there's also been team ups. So I know for maybe some sets that maybe can't do legacies for whatever reason, team ups is also an option. We last saw that in Masters of Time, I believe, with the they were in the Dino boosters and the Colossal boosters. So that's definitely something that a mechanic that is being worked on for sure. Garrett says, "We love Brian." You got some fans in the chat, Brian. We got some fans.
Thanks, Garrett.
Let's see. Hello, everybody. Bubbles. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Emily, Miss Queen of Canada. Hello, Queen of the North.
Hey, Emily.
Hello. Okay. Oh, perfect. So we had just talked about this a little bit earlier. But Garrett asks, "How does Chair Panther affect pilots for the pilot trait?"
Ooh, all right, going straight for the
Yeah. So let's get into
stuff.
it.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, we're going to get a pilot character up, so I have the trait in front of me.
No, you're good. Take your time.
So that would be Ghost Rider would be the best thing to do. We have a bunch of Ghost Riders that are pilots. There we got a good Ghost Rider. You were a pilot, right? Yes. So this game, that character can't be healed. So what I assume you're getting at is you choose the pilot, the character that was chosen for the pilot as Chair Panther's can't use sideline active or leave the sideline thing. So in that case, while the pilot, so the on the map character that's using the pilot trait will choose that character, turn them to any click, and they will be able to call take the standard powers off of the show and click, because that's part of the trait of the character that's on the map.
Mm.
So Cherry Panther won't affect that. However, when the on the map character is KO'd and they go to generate the character that was chosen as their pilot, that character won't be able to leave the sideline.
Wow.
So they just will remain there, and assuming, of course, Cher Panther is still
Exactly.
alive and kicking.
Exactly. Great answer. Thank you, Garrett, for that question. We got a question from Dial H. Brian, what was your favorite era of HeroClix that you played in? Do you ever look to receive mechanics from then in new designs? Ooh, great question.
Oh, I mean, favorite era is probably going to be right around War of Light, Lantern batteries, and all that. The I mean that was when I did my absolute best in competitive, right when I really got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, red Lantern battery, giving everything penetrating poison, grasshopper, stuff like fun time.
Yeah.
But as far as looking back and trying to revive old mechanics, absolutely, yeah. I mean, good example. We back in War of Light, we had the Lantern Entity chases, which were a major inspiration for things like the DD base Avatar stuff we have going on now. Just trying to get a simpler, a little more toned down version of that, because they were a little much.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever I can, I always like looking back, seeing what worked well and what can be improved on, and retooling it as we go forward.
Absolutely, that's a great question or a great answer, especially now that we have a Lantern Legacy coming up, a set coming up next year, or actually this year. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is perfect times for the character designers to be like, hey, what was working back then, and how can we translate it to today's gameplay without breaking it, maybe like it did back in the day. So that leads me to. I'm sorry.
No, I was just real excited for Lantern Legacy. Harping on War of Light is a favorite era. That said, is just a love letter to War of Light.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do remember in Gen Con, I think it was what did it say, the predecessor? What was it? I forgot what words were used on the slideshow, but basically what you mentioned, it's kind of, if you loved World Light, you're gonna love Lantern Legacy, and no matter whether you're a DC guy, Marvel guy, or other IP, you're probably gonna like Lantern Legacy. The scopes, like I've mentioned earlier before the call, like the scopes already look fantastic, so that's always a good start for me.
Yeah, real fun surprises and legacy cards for that set too.
There we go. I have one of my own first questions. So, because we're already kind of talking a little bit of the past of what of HeroClix was, I want to talk about gameplay. And what it was in the past. So, of course, HeroClix has been around for, I think we've known like 2 decades now, a little bit over 2 decades. So, of course, like any game that's been around that long, it changes over time to compensate or to adjust to what's really strong or really weak, perhaps over time. So maybe I want to first ask you, like, from what it was what was like the last power, the standard power that was added to the game? I believe it was a sidestep.
Was the pink powers, yeah. Sidestep, precision strike, invincible, and power.
Okay, so that, I thought it was just sidestep, so I didn't know it was also the set of 4, which makes sense because it's a color thing, right? How at that time, were you designing or gameplay designing?
Oh,
okay.
God, no.
Okay, I hear you. No, I mean, my question, I'm sure you can maybe still like pitch in a little bit of insight. Like when did it feel right maybe to add a power or maybe take something off of the game, maybe like pushing damage? Like when does that decision come?
So that is a complicated question with a lot of moving parts. We're always looking to see what can be pruned, what can be tweaked, but we're also cognizant we can't change the rules that frequently. I mean, the fans definitely don't want to see the game shifting more than it has to. So things need to be spaced out. They need to take a lot of time to simmer on. We are seeing there's a good chunk of fans calling for certain powers to get a little bit of tweaking and overhauling, which, when we start seeing that, it can start kind of looking to see what can be changed. And Leap, Climb, Incapacitate are usually the ones that are top of that list. Earthbound, I think, needs a little bit more. I don't want to say making it better. It needs to be made worse so it actually has impact.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But I mean, at least once a year, we kind of evaluate, like, is this the time to make a change? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah.
But it's something we definitely keep an eye on.
And I do appreciate, as a new player, fairly new player, quote unquote,
Yeah.
how you guys gradually make changes when you guys do. So for the last one was around Spider-Man Beyond's Amazing, making the minimum range 4 instead of 6
Hmm.
because of the maps were getting smaller. So I like how it was like, oh, that's easy to learn quickly. It's not like, okay, here's another set of 6 powers, learn them and have fun because you have an event next week, right? So I do appreciate how gradual you guys are with that. Most notably, the one that did definitely happen during my career is theme probs.
Hmm.
Any insight you can give me on theme probs, why they weren't working or why they just weren't really necessary, perhaps?
So theme probs were a bit of a trick design wise. Trying to think how best to put this.
Sure, sure, sure.
It was really there was no limit on them, I guess. So what we were observing is that players with the theme probs were just immediately burning them all in round one of the game just to try to get like that initial hit off. They didn't really add much to the game as far as like tension or stakes. They having that limited pool of resources only feels good if it's a meaningful choice when to use it, and not just the moment the game starts, just immediately burn them all. So we wanted to kind of step back on that because if it's not a meaningful choice to use, it probably isn't a great mechanic. Uh, so removing that and then trying to slant the way we design figures a little bit more towards incorporating theme rewards in the figure designs themselves. So things like checking for keywords or shared team abilities
Yes.
gives us more of that meaningful design, like team building choices when it comes to building theme.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we were definitely undervaluing the printed power
Mm-hmm.
probability control on characters because we already assumed we had 3 of them,
Right.
for a whole game. So now we actually put some more value on those characters, which is never a bad thing, because you're actually spending money on that. Whereas theme props are free,
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, we've got questions going like crazy out here. I
All
appreciate you
right.
guys all joining. Let's actually stop right here and do a quick little giveaway because we have so many of you guys, and thank you guys all for tuning in. It means the world to me having you guys here. So, speaking of, let's do speed powers because we mentioned sidestep right now. I want you guys have a minute and a half in the comments and the live chat. Pick your favorite speed power that you just can't build without. The winner, you guys have a minute and a half starting now because there's a slight delay, so we'll compensate with that. The winner of this giveaway will be given. We got a 2025 HeroClix Marvel Starter Kit, 5 boosters of Marvel's Next Phase, a Marvel HeroClix Deadpool Friends High Five. We'll be giving to the first one as you guys start. Perfect. Thank you. Drizik, you'll be the first entry. As you guys start putting those comments in, the email right above my little head is where I want you guys to send me your name, your actual username on YouTube, as well as your address where you want this shipped. So please do that
Oh,
as soon as you guys know you guys are the winners. As we wait for that, Brian, what is your favorite speed power?
probably mind control.
Oh, that's in right now. That's in right
Yeah.
now. That's very much in. Has it changed at all?
I mean, it's shifted over. I mean, the only big change it took was it Wonder Woman earlier when it got. It used to be that you hit the character, you could give them any action, and move up to after half the speed, give them any action, which led to all sorts of weird corner case rulings. The fun one. This was the tech back in the day. So there used to be vehicle characters that you had to give an adjacent friendly character power action, remove them from the map, and designate them as that vehicle's pilot.
Oh,
So what you would do is you would TK or otherwise Kajigger or carry or otherwise just get your vehicle adjacent to your opposing character, mind control the opposing character, and give them the power action to become the vehicle's pilot, which took them off the map. And they were until that vehicle got destroyed, they were just gone.
no, thank you. No, thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, yeah. Thank God for
Yeah,
modern.
yeah.
That's insane. Yeah,
But
mind
yeah,
control. Oh, just go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I don't know. Lots of other issues like characters with the once per game effect, just your opponent burning that on you. It was fun for the player with mind control, but it was just not
Exactly.
healthy for the game.
Okay, well, we have a lot of comments. Thank you guys all for putting that in. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 comments. We'll be stopping with Mac Artifacts with his answer of Flurry. Let's get a random number generator here. Perfect. And then I am going to click it a couple times on stream so you guys can see this. Hopefully you guys can. So it's just on a random number there. And 3, 2, 1. So number 2 is Aaron Morgan. Look at that. All right, Aaron. Message me or email me to this email right above me, please, with your full name, Aaron Morgan, your username, which is Aaron Morgan, and then your address, please, man, and I'll have that sent to you. Thank you for participating. Back to the questions. Maybe you guys are wondering what my favorite speed power is. I think I'm most scared of hypersonic speed. I think the yo-yo mechanic is a little scary to me. So being able to, get a little bit close, do an attack, and then go back a little bit is always a little bit scary for me. So I think hypersonic speed might be also my favorite because it scared me so much. Okay, so let's see here. So we got a question from, I believe, Wesley Robertson. So he says, or he asks, or I should say, they asked, do iconics go through the same design and testing as main set figures?
Yes, iconics are generally on a slightly more accelerated track than the main set figures, just because there's less there to test. If we're giving like a full 70, 60 odd set PT time, it just needs longer to cook. But yeah, they go through the same design and playtesting process. Just we don't usually spend as much time on them because there's less there to worry about.
Absolutely. I can imagine with a set, it's you got 40, 50 plus figures where it's like, okay, let's make sure all of this is correct, and you need a lot more time than just a set of 4 or 5 figures compared. Let's see here. So we have a question here. I thought I had wrote down the user that name that wrote this or that asked this, but I don't have it here. So he asked, how does poison, the power poison, and the acid arrow work through going through invincible, and if it even does? All right, go ahead to pull it up.
Yeah, acid arrow, memory serves, is damage can't be reduced below 1.
Correct.
So in that case, character gets hit with acid arrow. The effect applies to them that they can't reduce damage below 1. Character next to them uses poison. Invincible will try to reduce that to 0 and get told it can't reduce below 1, so 1 damage gets through.
Okay, so
yeah.
Acid, after a character has been acid and then poisoned, it will still deal at least 1 damage, despite Invincible saying reduces penetrating damage by 2.
Right, because the thing with the acid arrow is that it is not making the damage penetrating, which is what Invincible stops. It just says whatever damage reduction calculation you're applying to this, can't bring it below 1.
Got you. Thank you, Brian. So Electric Football Hero 1349 asked, I'm so confused on powers like leadership, empower, etc. I understand they work on adjacent friendly characters, but do they also work on the character with the power?
No. A character is never adjacent to themselves under any circumstances. So there are a couple times where you can kind of get around this with special powers. Like a character might have a special power, let's say Captain America. It's like leadership. When he uses it and succeeds, he may instead remove an action token from a friendly character with the Avengers keyword. So in something like that, he could leadership himself because he has the Avengers keyword. His instead of is replacing the normal adjacent character of less points or shared keyword with just friendly Avenger. But outside of special powers like that change what you're looking for, you'll never be able to leadership yourself, empower yourself, so on and so forth.
Makes sense. I agree. Thank you, Brian. Feel free to ask any questions you guys may have about any standard powers. There's some complex ones. Don't get me wrong. Don't even me that I know what's kind of going on. I still can get confused here and there. Battle Furies
Yeah.
has a lot of effects going on at the same time, for example, and of course Pulse Wave is always one of the more complex
Yeah.
powers. Um, John Bolt 006 asks, "Hi, can you explain characters with zero attack, like Jonah Jameson, etc.?" So I made sure first the character existed. Jonah Jameson existed. It's like a Pog from
Yeah.
the super old set before my time. But I guess he's kind of wondering, what's their purpose and can they deal any damage, perhaps?
Well, they can make an attack roll like any other character. They just don't have very good odds of hitting. um, Basically, in that case, the character was not designed to be an attacker. They probably have some sort of support character, like support power, like Perplex or Outwit, and they're meant to just be a thing that sits there providing a support power to the team. I mean, you can always fish for that critical hit.
There you go. There
That's,
you go. That's what I was going to say next. I mean, you can always exactly
yeah.
pray for a critical hit, and maybe if they don't have a reducer, you can still deal them some damage, or with maybe with knockback.
Mm.
Um, but yes, so yeah, there's different type of characters when they're designed. There's some that aren't really made to be up front lines of a team, rather just sit back and support the team, like Brian said. So there's
Don't know.
purposes.
I don't know that we've ever done like a costed character that has zero attack. There's plenty of bystanders that do,
Oh yes,
but yeah, I don't know if we ever made like a 5-10 point character that has zero attack. Outside of like maybe they have one click where they're meant to like regen off of it back onto damage healing.
the first one that comes to mind would be Kevin, but same thing with him is that
You're absolutely right.
yeah. Kevin's the one where like I played with him not too long ago at an event,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't want to risk it, but nah, I would just pick up equipment, destroy it the next turn with him, and that's how he was generating points. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's besides him. Yes, there's probably no other characters with zero attack. Um, let's see. Okay, so here's a comment. So this is a great question or comment rather.
Mhm.
Great advice. So this is in regards to the video he commented on. I usually pick a tentpole piece when creating a team, a support piece, and something for the middle. I prefer to cap my teams about 3 to 4 pieces. Brian, do you have any maybe tips or tricks that you'd want to give a new player as far as starting to build teams and maybe where you'd lead them into looking first for building a team?
I mean, if you're building your first team, or I think just generally speaking, keeping it to a lower number of figures is always good advice. The Heroclix has a pretty steep learning curve. I don't think we're all kind of aware of that. A lot of figures give you a lot of actions to do, and if you're really familiar with the game, you can definitely maximize on that. But for early games, keeping it to a couple figures that you know what they're meant to do will give you much better results than just trying to spam little support characters that are doing a million different things.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that 3 to 4 pieces is a good sweet spot.
Mhm.
That's kind of, I'm sure, why the starter sets were designed the way that they were. Is that it's easy to manage what's going on with that character's abilities, especially as they start taking damage or changing clicks. Where you're like, okay, what click is he or she on now, or they on, and then see what they have available. So
It's also a big reason why you're tending to see more like 300-point monsters in the CUR of sets.
yes,
They're excellent, good new player fodder. Just this is your one character. He's an absolute brick
yeah, yeah,
to take down. So it's
yeah.
good way to cut your teeth in the game.
Absolutely. I heard it today on a podcast, Critical Clicks. Shout out to them.
Mm-hmm.
They had mentioned Lucas was asking Scott, "Hey, what team would you recommend a new player to play at a competitive event?" And Lucas said, "Hey, just give him 300-point Trigon. That's there
Absolutely.
you go. It's already a great figure as a competitive player, regardless of what experience level you're at. But as far as learning how to play the game and minimizing the things you have to remember or know is a great start. So one figure teams are definitely, like you mentioned, the monsters. We have seen quite a few in the CUR with Thanos coming up in Collector's Trove. I think it's the first one we see in the low rarities. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He had I mean, I think he's the first 300-point one, but I mean, we've had stuff like Black Adam,
That's right.
Notorious,
That's
200
right.
point.
That's right.
There's a couple just those that just absolute units of figures.
Yes, yes, yes. And I love how they're always kind of playable. Like I said, regardless of what
Mhm.
experience level you're at or competitive level for pulp, those are a great start
Yeah.
for new players as well. So great question, J Det 27. Ryan DeBow 5229. 5298. I'm sorry. Sidelight Active says to swap a character with the same name, what happens if you can't? So then I respond to him, do you mind giving me an example just to kind of elaborate a little bit? He responds with Iron Man attacks, hit. Then it says swap a character on your sideline with a character of the same name or point value. So he's asking, what if you can't do that?
If for any reason you can't resolve an effect, you just stop right there. The effect ends and resolves at that point.
So,
Um,
yep, go ahead.
yeah. If I had a little bit more information on the exact
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I think
thing.
one vocabulary is really big in HeroClix as well. So
Mhm.
sometimes the word may is you'll see that
Right.
may around there sometimes. So may is if you can, you should, or if you have the option to rather. And sometimes you just don't have a may and you kind of have to. I'm sure with most of these interactions you have, if you have the character, swap it in. If you don't, you simply can't. But one big,
That's
yeah, go ahead.
so this is kind of one of the big tripping points of people like, but I see new players hit when they start getting to like the deeper areas of the rules. HeroClix doesn't really care about illegal actions that much. Like, you can always be given an action. Just sometimes that action isn't going to have much of an effect. Like if there are no characters adjacent to you, you can be given a close action to make a close attack, and you'll give them the action. You'll go searching for a target. You can't find a target. The action ends.
Yes,
Sometimes there's a reason to do that.
fair
Sometimes,
enough.
but it's not like you don't. The game never looks ahead to see like, oh, that's illegal. Can't do that. It's you just go for it step by step, and then if you hit a point where things can't happen, the action just stops there.
Right, right. So that's in more a little more information on like resolving actions and
Yeah,
of course we can get a little more technical on why you may just want to punch a wall for no reason, right? And there's
right.
some characters that benefit from that, and you'll have that in
It,
HeroClix.
some good thing. Running shot, for instance, we'll lay that. So maybe a character has when this character hits with a close attack after resolution, they can use running shot.
There you go.
And so you hit your target, you KO'd them. There's no one else within range. You can still running shot, and you'll get the move. And then when you go to make the attack, and there's no one to attack, that just ends there.
Yep, yep. So strategy, right?
Yeah.
Here we have a question from McConnell Lamar 155. Question for Brian. Can you talk about any other initiatives in the works to help bring in new players? Feel free to expound upon the top secret Naruto set that is surely on the way.
Man, Naruto anime clicks in general would be great.
Yes.
Um, so unfortunately, there's not a lot I can talk about because a lot of this is more like the marketing area. I don't really work on that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
I can talk about like the design, how we moved to the current model of starter sets, which
Great.
just to make the game easier to
Yes.
pick up,
Yes.
easier to learn. Yeah, but yeah, I really can't.
No, I hear
Yeah,
you.
go much past that.
So, I mean, really quick, more on that starter kit. Something
Hmm.
once again we talked about before the live stream is that so this variation of starter kits is the second year. So 2024 was the first year. 2025 is now the second year. You guys have done this kind of formula of the starter kit. But before we had starter sets that were part of a set, right? So
Hmm.
starter, what were they called? Starter kits, or I'm sorry,
Uh, Battlegrounds? No, Battlegrounds was just the Avengers Mass of Evil. What? I
I think
think
it
they
was
were
starter
starter.
sets. Yeah,
I think starter set was
yeah.
the yeah.
So we're currently in starter kits. They used to be starter
Mhm.
sets, but basically they were actual figures, as far as the sculpts, rather, not the actual designs of the character, but the sculpts were taken from a set. So if, last one I
Mhm.
remember was the Spider-Man of Beyond Amazing.
Yeah.
We had, I believe it was 4 heroes and 4 villains, so a total of 8 characters. And then they had a cardboard box. I'm sorry, cardboard box, cardboard map.
Yeah. Cardboard
Um,
mat. Yeah.
2 sets of packs, and then I'm sure a rule book
Hmm.
in there as well. Um,
Right.
Maybe any idea or any insight as far as why maybe you guys
Sure.
wanted to branch off of that and go into what we have now?
Oh, absolutely. So the like, how best to put. So with the previous starter sets, kind of the idea was to try to make this like real premium product that was really attractive. You get a lot of figures, you get the really high quality maps. Also comes with a bit of a price tag that isn't great, but it's all you need for 2 players to play the game. In practice, though, this is especially something that we picked up working at the various shows doing learn to plays, is that we were dropping way too many characters on players to start with. I mean, the rules are hard enough to wrap your head around at times, but
Yes.
now you got 8 figures to go through, and 8, 10. I think it was 10 was the
Okay. Okay.
uh,
5.
yeah, a lot of figures to
Yes.
learn.
Yes.
With multiple dials, and the multiple dials thing was a huge point of confusion at learn to plays. We would tell the player, say, okay, so you're starting on click 1, and inevitably someone would pick it up and turn the dial and go, hey, wait, what's this thing on click 5?
Yes.
Oh, that's the second start, and you have to go. It
Right.
was a mess to learn. So these new starter kits were designed to get around that. Each kit is only meant for a player that you can kind of cheese it a little bit. But it gives you 4 characters that work well together. The characters are chunky. They have high point values that you can build with, so you don't need a lot of them on the team at once. And they don't have split dials, which was just a big point of confusion removed. It's a lot easier to explain. If you're using this card, they do these powers in the card. If you're using this card, they do the other powers in this card.
Yep.
No matter what, you're starting on click 1 because that is just a real simple, easy thing for a player to wrap their head around. Easy. And I mean, from what we've been seeing at shows, that it is really borne out. We've had much greater retention rates at learn to plays. We've been hearing from players that they're having an easier time teaching with these kits. It's been working pretty well.
I agree. I think a lot of the feedback that WizKids was given, I'm sure, is from experienced players. Like, why should I buy this, right? So what with what you guys are doing now, the formula you guys are doing now, at least from the Marvel starter set that you guys have seen, I'm sure from the series I dropped, the Thor is pretty good. The Captain America has great defense power. So these are actually characters I wouldn't mind actually putting into my competitive team for my local event on a Saturday or Sunday. Also the DC one, I like the Batman a lot. The Superman, I'm sure you've seen the chatter on the groups is actually pretty good. Like, if you can build around him and give him some equipment, like, he's actually fantastic. So I like how anyone can buy this or win this in this live stream, and they're actually okay with it. It's like, I don't mind having this, and the scopes look fantastic. That goes even further into the reason why I like the new formula.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're aiming for. We want there to be at least that one figure that, as a new player, kind of graduates from just their starter set to start mixing in stuff they've pulled from packs and building, exploring new teams. There's that one thing that they can thread through their teams, and it'll carry them through into more competitive play.
Agreed.
Which also means that it's usually something for competitive players to go seek out too.
The maps as well, it's just a little bonus of having the maps, and also the packs are always great just to also give them away. I already have a fair share of my own packs, so at this point I was telling you before the live stream, I was with my girlfriend and her family over the holidays, so I was teaching them how to play, and I gave basically that whole starter kit to them so that they can have it for themselves and read it on their free time if they want to continue learning. 2 thumbs up for me, and I'm sure most of everybody on the chat on the starter.
Glad to hear.
Let's go into a double giveaway. Like I said, I have a lot to give away, and I want to make sure you guys are all happy in the chat. So let's do a double giveaway. I'm going to give you guys a minute and a half. Starting now, give me your favorite attack power. So we've done speed. Let's do attack. Brian, where are you feeling with attack? What do you?
It's got to be poison.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Poison. Is it because? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm like a real sort of like a control type player, combo type player. Yeah. So a lot of my teams that I've built were just built to lock the opponent down and then just trickle on guaranteed damage, maybe from poison, maybe from something else, but the less dice I have to roll to ding you, the better.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, especially comboed within some plasticity or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a Joker, I believe, from Notorious. It might have been the Prime that has Don't quote me on that. Has poison and plasticity, so it's a great combination.
Yes,
To,
not the prime. The prime is Jokester, but
oh, that's
yeah,
right.
that's the Joker that does the poisons out of the smoke terrain on
That's
the map,
right.
I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
So those are great combos right there. So as a new player, I also recommend you look into the powers and see what combinations you want to build with, and that you see that feed off each other. You know, if you're doing a range attack, some ESD or energy shield deflection, some running shot, range combat expert. So you see those combinations, and you start building around them. So plasticity and poison is a great start, I'd say, for that as well. My favorite attack power. TK. I like to think of myself as a technical player. Telekinesis is a very strategic play. Power, it could be very aggressive. It could be very defensive. It has that versatility for a player. So that is a minute and 30 seconds. We've got, I think, more this time. So let's go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. So 20, last one we have here is Mark Wright. Yes. All right. So we're going to do a double giveaway. So let me just read out the prizes real quick. The first winner will be winning a 2025 Heroclix DC starter kit, 5 boosters of Marvel Deadpool Weapon X, and the Heroclix Marvel Avengers Hellfire Gala Premium Collection number 2. The second winner, or now the third winner in the stream, will be winning a 2025 DC starter kit as well, 5 boosters of DC's Masters of Time, and the DC Heroclix Iconics Trigon and Raven. All right, so like I said, we got 20 entries. 15, 16... 19, 20. Yep. All right. So let's still left off on 2 right here. So we're going to refresh that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So number 4 is our first winner. We have number 1 Creed fan 6969. Please email me your name, your username that you have there, and your address where you want this shipped. And the second winner will be, let's do it, 1, 2, 3. Number 3. Okay, we have Electric Football Hero. Awesome. So Electric Football Hero. Also email me your full name, your username, and your address. Electric Football Hero is one that was message or commenting on the series throughout the week. He had said that he is a new player, so this is awesome that you're getting this product as a new player. Hopefully you stick along and we see you at some events. All right. How are we feeling, Brian? How are we feeling?
Feeling good.
Yes.
I'm noting in chat.
Yes.
That's not what Acid says. So I misremembered Acid Arrow.
Okay.
Which blame my internet connection in my basement here. I'm having trouble getting the
no worries.
click Nexus up to show things. So Acid Arrow is if they would reduce damage, they reduce by 1 less. Not they get reduced below 1. So sorry, that was entirely my fault. So in that case, character with Invincible gets hit. They would attempt to reduce by 1 instead of by 2 because the Acid Arrow is reduced by 1 less.
Right.
Poison's only dealing 1 damage, so they would take no damage.
Noted.
Again, terribly sorry, guys. Might just have a bit of a load time on the look up there. Went off my memory, and my memory was wrong in this case.
I'll be sure to comment on that question on the video that they posted that, and I'll let them know. But great catch, thank you, Brian.
Sorry about that, guys.
You're fine. I'm sure they don't mind. Perfect. All right, so here we got Matthew Tonzola 1005. What would be good to maybe describe is protected, capital letters protected, when you get into powers and abilities?
Okay, so this is not current era of rules because we moved over to Safeguard to help distinguish that. But on older cards, you might see some things that are protected all caps and some things are protected lowercase. So protect all caps protected basically means this character can't be affected by the thing. Protected lowercase is this power can't be affected by the thing. And that's just basic rule of thumb. You kind of have to look at the PAC to see exactly the nitty gritty of it. Example, all caps protected, which is net. Which again, for this is old rules. Currently on the card, it's going to show up as safeguard all caps, not protected. But all caps, safeguard or all caps protected outwit is this character cannot be targeted by outwit if for any reason they gain access to safeguard or all caps protected and they've been affected by outwit. That duration of outwit immediately ends. Whereas lowercase protected, you'll see appear in certain powers, and it just means this power can't be chosen by an opponent's use of outwit. And if for some reason it was, and then it gained protected later, the outwit immediately ends.
Got you. Got you. That's really great because the like you mentioned, protected and safeguard.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a little dicey, especially when you start doing the other formats in HeroClix where you start using players with both those words. Right?
Yeah.
So
it's an issue in Silver. I'm glad that got
exactly. Yeah. So Silver, for example, is for if there's any new players here in the chat. Silver is just a different format that's available to be played in HeroClix, and in the channel in the Alpha Strike, I do want to dive into different formats and different like battle royales, themed teams or themed events. Silver, for example, Pulp. I want to deep dive into all those formats because they're all really fun and they're all HeroClix, which is the best part, right? So they're all versions of HeroClix. Everybody's got their own taste, the different style of play. So I like that HeroClix caters to all those different hungers that some players may have. Like, I really want to play this 300-point character, but I just can't play him in Modern. How can I play him? Well, there's Silver. So that's just one example of why it's great to have different formats.
Yeah.
Another question from Ryan DeBow, 5298. He says, good video, in reference to the video that he's commenting under. Mastermind the characters that you use it on. Can they use defensive powers? So a character has Mastermind. He's using Mastermind to send the damage to a different character. Can that new character targeted or now hit, can they use defensive powers?
So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is in most cases yes. The trick comes from knowing exactly what defense powers they have. A good example of this: if they have toughness, they will reduce the damage taken by 1, assuming the attacker isn't dealing penetrating damage. If they have impervious, they'll can either reduce by 2 or use the rollout to try maybe reduce to 0. The issue comes with things like super senses or Mastermind itself, because Mastermind says that the character becomes hit. It skips past anything that would let them evade the attack or redirect it elsewhere. Once you choose to Mastermind to a character, that character is hit. There is nothing they can do to change that they've been hit.
Right.
So they won't be able to use super senses. They can't Mastermind to transfer it off to someone else.
Right.
They are now the hit character, and you proceed from there.
Exactly. One of the biggest tips I would give, like I mentioned in the series as well, any experience level character or player, is have a pack with you, have a powers and abilities with you, because verbiage, like we mentioned throughout this live stream, is very important. So knowing when a character is targeted, when they're able to roll out with super senses and not evade. The word evade is actually an actual word in the game of HeroClix. If they have the opportunity to evade, and then once they are hit. So there's different. I don't know what you would call them. Levels to it or stages of an attack, right? Of dealing damage that is really important. So, Mastermind's a really strong power. If built around correctly, it can help you have one of your stronger characters stay alive and send damage out to maybe Pogs or something else that's less points and you don't really care about. But just make sure that that you're doing these stages correctly, right? Following the process. Here we got a question on some dice and when a attack or an effect is looking for a result or the actual die result. So this is from Nathan Fuyamayor. Not sure if this is the kind of questions you were looking for, but question here. Can you explain triggered effects, specifically in regards to the Wolverine squad trait, Zombie Wolverine, for example, i.e., if you have senses on a 6 but roll a 5, do you still get to heal? So I'll stop right there before I follow with this secondary question. Yeah, yeah.
Let me
Feel free to pull them up. Yeah, feel free.
get the Wolverine
Of
trade up. I
course.
think LCD has that. That's probably the. Hmm. Apologies for the delay,
No,
but
you're fine. You're fine.
looks like we're actually rolling along. Woohoo!
You're good. You're good.
All right, so Wolverine Squad is when this character rolls a single d6. If the displayed face is a 5 or 6, after resolutions, you may heal a friendly character with Wolverine Squad one click. So for super senses, if you roll the 5, that would trigger as the displayed face. It's a single d6 roll. Displayed face was a 5, it triggers. Um, I I feel like maybe there's more to the
Yes.
questions
So
than that.
he follows up with saying, and I think that's the right answer as well.
Mhm.
Um, Also, will impervious rolls work if taking penetrating damage, and breakaway rolls work if the character has improved movement characters?
Okay, so the you okay. So with impervious, you don't get to roll the single d6 if you're being dealt penetrating damage. You can't choose to apply triggers that don't do anything.
Yes.
Um, Optional triggers, and but impervious is an optional trigger. That's it. If you have impervious and the ability to reduce penetrating damage, yes, that works.
Yes.
Go for it. Uh, with uh, improvement characters, it says this character automatically breaks away, which is instead of rolling, you just succeed at the breakaway.
Yes.
So because you never actually rolled a single d6, then you're not going to get the trigger for the Wolverine trait.
Understood. Understood. And then he's yeah. So it's basically what you just answered. He says thanks in advance, Brian.
Yeah.
Logan
Thank you.
Parley asks, "What is the best way you found for new players to learn about standard powers?"
Introduce them in batches.
Hmm.
And I usually go with defense powers first, following that, speed powers, then attack, then damage.
Hmm.
Damage has a lot of free actions in it, and free actions are best saved till after they've got the whole action economy token thing down pretty pat.
That makes sense, and I think also the starter kits, as far as having some characters that don't have all the standard powers, but have a select few, and they're actually elaborated a little bit more on the actual comp book that comes in the starter kits, which is really great because I know that when I was reading through the the comp that's included in the set, it would say some of the powers, like it had like 5 attack powers. Like, why is it selecting these 5 powers? What's because those are the 5 powers that are actually in the character on the characters
Mhm.
in the starter set, and instead of just mind numbing you with a bunch of powers that aren't included in that set. Learn them in batches is a great tip. Grab your team and just run it a couple games until you master it, and then you understand how the those standard powers work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Usually, I'll play the first game with a player without using any powers at all. I'll tell them the colored boxes
Yes.
denote what powers they can use. But for right now, ignore that. We're just going to teach you how actions work, how dice roll, you know, how to move and attack. And then from there, defense powers, because you attack, if you can use this to reduce damage. That's what most of the defense powers are. Either modifiers, damage reduction, stuff like that. Very simple, passive things. You don't need to think about too much while you're taking your turns. Move powers introduce move and attack, which is what most players are like looking for once they've figured out how limiting the actual action economy can be without those.
Absolutely.
So it's
Yeah. As far as when I was teaching my girlfriend's little brothers how to play, I would basically give them the options of like, hey, this is what you can do, and this is your other option. So there's like the risk factor in Heroclix as well, whether you want to risk a breakaway, right, or do you just want to swing for the punch? I know you're a range attacker, but maybe you just want to go for a punch and deal no penetrating damage because you're doing a close attack, or do you want to risk the breakaway and take a shot? And I think that's also a great way to teach players of here, these are the options you have. You don't have to tell them about all of the defensive powers that they have at a certain time. They might take some damage and lose it, and then you're just teaching them 5 to 7 powers in one turn, which they didn't have to learn. So definitely practicing is probably just the best way to learn the game of HeroClix. So never stop practicing. Here we have a question from Anthony Bruno. Hi, Brian. What advice would you have to new players on how to choose the right map at game setup? This is a great question.
Oh, geez, that is a
It's a
tough
loaded
question.
question.
Yeah, that's.
So,
And honestly, this was one of the things that I always struggled with
yeah, yeah, I
when
still
I
do.
was playing competitively. You're good. I mean, just right about you're going to have three maps for your team. You want to make sure you have one map that's indoors, has some good blocking in it, some good cover, maybe outdoors blocking. One map that kind of chokes the map that kind of like chokes the map a little bit. One map that's nice and open that you can maneuver around easily, and then one map that's kind of in between. And every game you're going to be looking at your opponent's team and like, do I care more about restricting them than I do my own movement? Then we're going blocking. Do I really need mobility against this team? We're going open, and if it's kind of balanced, then you pick the other one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's
Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I can really say much more than that.
Yeah. No. No.
It,
As I mean, for my 2 years of playing, I don't feel like it matters too much. A lot of times I just choose the map that looks the funnest, but that's not very strategic, right? But if you're doing if you're a shooter, if you have a range attacking team, then yeah, maybe you get some outdoor and then some elevated somewhere. And then when you set up your three game elements, your three terrains at the beginning of the game, maybe put them strategically to where that's where you're going to go your first turn and hide behind those three pieces of blocking or whatever it is, and then you go from there because games can end up on any square on a map by turn 4 or 5. Who knows? So there's no map that's really gonna. Oh, you play this. Well, I guess I shouldn't say like that, but more often than not, it will matter very little in the grand scheme of things. I might eat my words later if we're talking like Major Brock's Bunker, right? So it's there's just
there,
yeah,
yeah. You have to look at what your team can
yeah,
do and what's going to, like. I mean, if your whole team has flight, leap, climb, or otherwise is able to ignore outdoor blocking, then yeah, maybe you slant your maps more towards having lots of outdoor blocking
makes
because
sense.
you can ignore that, and maybe your opponents can't.
Makes sense.
It's yeah, there is unfortunately no real one size fits all. Try play testing, play a couple games at a time, see what maps your team does well on. Just keep notes on that.
So here we have a question from McConnell Lamar as well. Monthly OP kits are great incentive driver to get players, new and old, to local game shops. Can you talk about the plans for release of these kits and the frequency of their release?
So frequency of release is unfortunately not something I really have anything to do with. I churn them out. They go off to production, and then other people further up the totem pole than I figure out how how things are going to go from there.
Right.
I can tell you there's a handful that are in the pipeline, at various stages of production. So yeah, there's more coming out, but yeah, I can't really speak much more than that.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, I'm going to butcher this name. Guispi asks, if my character is adjacent to an opposing character, is it possible to make a ranged attack against another opponent character?
Repeat that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. If my character is adjacent to an opposing character, is it possible to make a ranged attack against another opponent character?
Generally speaking, no. If you are adjacent to an opposing character, you cannot make ranged attacks. Generally speaking, there is an improved targeting ability that looks like the two little circles with an arrow going through it, which is this character can make ranged attacks while adjacent. So if you have that, go for it. Um, the one thing to note: being adjacent does not prevent you from being given range actions, only from making the attack that generally follows from a range action.
Mm,
So you can use something like Pulse Wave, which is a range action that then gives you the ability to shoot out of adjacency and make the range attack while you're adjacent.
great answer. I forgot about pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, so basically you just need the improved targeting adjacency, or you
Mm-hmm.
can risk the breakaway, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. But that's a little bit different.
Yep.
Um, hmm. Let's skip that one and let's see. Got it. You okay? Yes. Okay, so here's a question we kind of um, talked about a little bit earlier in the week. Is Beetlejuice being looked at from a is he good for the game perspective? So let me actually, before you answer that, let me actually ask one other question I had for you. Can
Mhm.
you explain what spirit of the game means?
It means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I don't know that I have a good definition for it. If I had to sort of spitball something, the game is it's nebulous, fun,
Right.
engaging.
Right.
There isn't anything happening that's preventing players from making meaningful choices during the game. But yeah, I mean, I think you could ask 5 people and get 6 different answers to that question.
Is spirit of game like an actual HeroClix term, or is that something that community made up?
So it is a thing that the judge. It is a sort of hero's term that the a judge can make rulings at events to preserve the spirit of the game, which is just sort of like a general nebulous thing that if there is something happening at an event that is maybe not quite covered by the rules, but is a problem, judges do have the discretion to rule on it in such a way that the you know game is preserved as a fun, engaging game. I, to my knowledge, it's never needed to be used at an event, like in the course of the event. But there have been times where it's been used preemptively.
Right.
Um, like someone finds a uh, infinite combo, and the judges
Yes.
become aware of that, and they announce before the event starts, like we're making the spirit of the game ruling. This doesn't work because it doesn't work.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, yeah, but that's kind of leads into Beetlejuice question, and I'm sorry for cutting you
Mhm.
off and not letting you answer that one,
Oh,
but
no, not a problem.
um, you have anything on Beetlejuice? What are you thinking?
So, I mean, yes, if we're looking at it as far as sorry, good
You're good. You're good.
back over here. Uh, I mean, yes, we are certainly looking at it, and we keep our eyes on a lot of things, and anything the community is raising an issue over. I mean, we're definitely cognizant of that fact.
Of course.
Um, given what how people are feeling about they've been communicating us, he is almost certainly going to be on the next watch list, which is probably going to be next month, give or take. But whenever that comes, he's most likely going to be on it. That's not to say we're going to change anything. It just means that we're going to look at him closely, review him, and we might come to the conclusion that no, he is fine as is. We like the effect it's having on the game. We might need to issue an errata on him. You know,
Yes.
I can't. Right.
Right.
It's going.
Right.
I am not the only person on the rules team, so
100%.
it'll. Yeah.
I think watch list is fair, mainly because there really hasn't been any big events with him on the team. For the most part, there has been the last couple of states, I believe, had him legal at the time. But also, I think that he also helps a lot of new players. If the community is
Mhm.
divided, I've seen he does too much, but it's not too much toward the point where it's really oppressive, but rather it slows the game down, which is great for new players to kind of take it in a little bit slower, rather than here's a bunch of free actions and this is what's possible to do in a single turn of 50 plus free actions. So it definitely slows the game down. I'll be interested to see what does happen. I think he's fine, but I'm not in the rules team, so
Yeah.
that's that. So Electro Football Hero, he's referring back to the question that we answered with taking range attacks from adjacency.
Mhm.
So Brian, if you're okay, I would like to pull up Pulse Wave. I think Pulse Wave is one of
Sure.
those powers that do too much. And he asks, "Wait, you can Pulse Wave while adjacent to opponents? Did I hear that correctly?"
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yes, their answer is yes. But we can both pull up Pulse Wave, and we can just maybe for new players that are possibly watching this in the future. Well, I forgot to mention that we're live streaming right now. There's people here in the chat, but some people may come back in the future. As new players and watch this live stream. So, hello everybody from the future. We're going to talk about Pulse Wave real quick. This is a standard attack power in Heroclix, and it's really strong. It does a lot, but it's very balanced as well. So, Brian, I'll let you take it away if you want to read it if or if not, I can read it as well, and we
Oh,
can.
sure. Yeah, I can read it off. So Pulse Wave is all caps range. So that means it takes a range action to activate. You can use it with something like running shot. I think, uh, and that gives you range 4. So it sets your character's range to 4 for that action. This is a replacement value. So if those other effects happen that modify values, that happens after the replacement 4. Then next up, it has the improved targeting symbol. It's a little bullseye looking thing. Then 2 symbols after that. One is a click style looking symbol, which is improved targeting characters, and the other is looks like 2 circles with a line going through it, which is improved targeting shoot, shoots out of adjacency. So that means that when this character is making the range attack, it can draw line of fire through characters, and it can make the attack despite being based. So the text of Pulse Wave then goes on. Other characters within range can't use powers or abilities for this action, so it just basically blanks out their dials. Whatever's printed on them is not relevant. Make a range attack targeting all other characters within range and line of fire. Remember, you can draw line of fire through characters during Pulse Wave, so there's no hiding behind other characters, but walls, elevated, stuff like that will still block it. Including at least one opposing character, using printed defense values for each targeted character. So if there are no opposing characters in Pulse Wave range, it'll stop doing that because you need at least one target that isn't friendly to you.
Yes.
Printed defense values, so nothing that will increase or decrease their defense values is applied. It's whatever is printed on their dial is the number you're looking to hit. Each hit character is dealt 1 damage instead of normal damage. So rather than checking your character's damage value and any modifiers that are applied to that, it's dealing just a single damage. Things that change the damage dealt, not your damage value, like critical hits, do affect this. There's not a lot of effects that characters have that change damage dealt instead of damage value. If you see damage +1, that's a damage value change. But critical hits, let's say, increase the damage dealt to each hit character by 1. If you crit hit on a Pulse Wave, you're dealing 2 damage to each hit character.
Yes. So
right.
thank you for that, Brian. Also, to add on that, it's like I mentioned earlier, you can combo a lot of things with it. So if the character using Pulse Wave has perplex and decides to perplex an opponent down, that perplex will have its effect during the Pulse Wave because the character doing the Pulse Wave is protected Pulse Wave. Is that
printed defense value? So if they perplex down defense, it's not gonna matter.
Okay, so if you perplex up your attack,
that matters.
Okay,
yes.
There we go. I take that back. Thank you, Brian. So, see, even as experienced players, you learn. But
that does kind of bring into a nifty little side effect of Pulse that's very easy to overlook. If duration's in Heroclix, if a power or ability sets up a duration, like until your next turn or this turn, or and then the power or ability that created that duration can't be used or is lost, the duration immediately ends. For example, if I outwit your super senses, and then for some reason I take a click of damage and I lose outwit off my dial, you get your super senses back, even though it hasn't come back around to my next turn yet. If I lose outwit, any outwits I had are gone. Pulse Wave is they can't use all powers and abilities on every other character within range.
Yes.
So if any of those characters use Perplex, use Outwit, use any other effect that has like until your next turn or this turn or whatever other duration, those effects just shut off. They're gone. So if that's so, your all of your opponent's characters piled on and they each perplex down your Pulse Wave's attack by 1. When you activate Pulse Wave, the first thing you do, you're blanking out their powers. Those perplexes ended. Your attack is right back up to where it's normally at.
Yep. So that's really important also to note that it also targets your friendly characters. So
yes,
be very mindful of that. So that's why I like Pulse Wave. It is very complicated, but it's also very simple in the sense that it just is, right?
Right.
It hurts you, it could possibly hurt you, and it definitely you try to make it as effective as possible to place that character and making the Pulse Wave to try to target as many opponent characters and less friendly characters as possible. So that's where the strategic part of Heroclix comes in play, where you see when do you want to pulse. You want to do maybe a barrier first, a TK first, a running shot, or all that good stuff. So be very mindful of that. It also includes your friendly characters. Okay, so this is by Gwispy. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. If two characters are adjacent to each other on a transition square for elevated terrain, can they make a close combat action? And do they need to break away if they want to move? Great question.
Okay, so this is getting into little nitpicky details here. They are technically not adjacent to each other. Elevation blocks adjacency, so things like poison, they won't be able to poison each
Mm-hmm.
other because they're not considered adjacent characters. Transition squares let them treat each other as being adjacent for the purposes of close combat attacks. So yes, you can punch up and down stairs, but you won't need to break away because they're not adjacent. You can't poison because they're not adjacent. If they're two friendly characters and one that has empower, it's not giving a
Mm.
damage bonus to the other one because they're not adjacent.
Great point. Also, with carrying abilities, if you're friendly, two friendlies, you can't carry an adjacent character.
Right.
Great answer. That was well said. That was awesome.
Mhm.
I can't even add on to that. That was just well said. Um, so we passed the 6 o'clock mark Central Time. Let's go ahead and run another double giveaway really quick. So this one's going to be for defense powers. Brian, take it away. What are you thinking?
Oh, defense powers. Oh, This one is not the easy answer that the other ones were.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And really quick, you guys have a minute
I
and a half. But go ahead, sorry,
think I'd be inclined to go with super senses.
Brian.
Um, Sole reason being, I really liked what was the Ninja Turtles character? Worm.
Okay.
Just like a super senses change oddball character.
All right. Super senses is a tough one when you're the attacker because it's like I just rolled really high. I had to roll even so crit hit is an exemption, but I had to roll a 9. I barely got it by the teeth by the skin on my teeth, and boom, there's your super sense. Like no, please, no, no, no. Senses on a 6 is the worst one too, especially if you have like a precision strike or something like that. Those hurt so much. Um, for myself, defense power. I think the most. I haven't read all the comments, but I think Invincible is probably, you know, uh, generally one of the stronger ones because it reduces penetrating damage. But oof. Yeah, I would have to say Invincible. I know it's a little meta, but it's I feel so much safer going out into the my opponent's side of the
Yeah.
map and having Invincible. So can't blame me for that one. So we are 5 seconds left. And there we go. So we got last one. We got the Way Bible Ministries. So let's go with we got. Make sure you comment one. Sorry. So the Way Bible, I see you commented a couple times. So let's just do one. So I'll treat your first comment as the one that counts. Okay. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All right. And we are going to do a double giveaway. So the winners of this one will be getting. The first winner will be getting the 2025 Marvel Starter Kit, 5 boosters of Marvel's Black Panther, and a Deadpool and Friends High Five. The second winner will be getting a 2025 Marvel Starter Kit as well, 5 boosters of Next Phase, the Premium Hellfire Gala Avengers set, and a Deadpool and Friends High Five set. So the first winner, we're going to do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So number 9. Let's go ahead and do. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So Electric Football Hero, you had won the last one. So email me again. Oh no, no, that's fine. We'll have someone else win it just so that we have as many winners as possible. But thank you for participating. We'll just do that 3 more times. 1, 2, 3, 12. So if he was 9, we got 10, 11, 12. Wesley Robertson, you are the winner of the first giveaway of this one. Wesley Robertson. And then the second winner. 1, 2, and 3. 16. So that's going to be.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine. 13, 14, 15, and 16. We have Chester Wilson. Please email me and Give me your full name, your username, and your address, and we'll have this sent out to you as soon as possible. Congratulations, gentlemen. Player participants. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right.
sorry if I've been yawning a bit. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Got a cat that did not let me sleep well last night.
You're fine. You're fine. No,
Yeah.
no worries. No worries. Okay. Let's see. Where did we leave off? Okay. Okay, so we have a question from Edison Tabletop Games. Shout out, Edison. Hope you're doing well. Based on the recent releases, which figure you had the most fun designing?
Oh, jeez. So this is really, I don't know if you caught it at the very beginning. I don't design many figures. I mostly just coordinate the other designers and like kind of like set the overall vibe for sets. Like,
Of course.
good example. I designed the expendable goon trait.
Oh.
I have yet to design a single expendable goon.
Oh, okay, wow.
But
okay,
like,
interesting.
I cooked up the trait. Like, this is a thing we're gonna try this out, set it off. The design team cooked up a bunch of stuff, sent it back, and I kind of pruned it down. I did work on the Sherlock Holmes set. I didn't work on that alone. I can't take full credit for it, but I did have a lot of fun with that. I especially love the way the cards turned out, which, again, not me. I don't do the graphic design.
Yes.
But yeah, their graphic design team knocked it out of the park on that one.
So more on the goon trait. First of all, Notorious, one of the best sets of that was last year or 2 years now, 2023.
Yeah.
Because of the goon trait, I think it definitely gave value to a lot of other rarities within that set because of that. And I like how it's still being used in sets following Notorious. We've had some, I think, almost in every other set. I'm sorry, every set since then. Don't quote me on that. But that leads me to my next question. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every set since I've been playing at least has a theme, right? It has some sort of game mechanic that it's introducing to the game, specific for that set. So, for example, Black Panther, we have the vibranium that's sideline active or sideline, and you can start punching it. You start farming vibranium. In Collector's Trove, for example, we have the one shots. Can you talk to me more about that design when it comes to maybe picking a set and then picking some sort of game element to expand on or bring into the game?
Sure. I mean, a lot of times we're trying to find a neat hook for the set. This is mechanic creep, I think, is the proper term. We need to, each set needs to have something interesting that it's doing. It doesn't necessarily need to be something new, but it does need to have some sort of mechanical hook to make that set feel special and new and separate from the sets that come before it and will be coming after it. So some of these things are things that we're going to be looking at running more on, like Goon, for example, or one-shots. We have, I think, every set post Collector's Trove is going to have at least a couple one-shots, though maybe not as many as Collector's Trove has. And some of them are more one-time things, like the vibranium mechanic in Black Panther. That we are dipping back into that. There's a Black Panther 400 that has some vibranium gameplay as well.
Yes.
So we'll always look to circle back on mechanics too when it makes sense to do so.
I agree.
But, yeah.
That's definitely one of my favorite parts of Heroclix sets in its entirety. I think definitely I was going to say Goon is my favorite so far because of the reasons I mentioned, and now that I know it was you behind the pen, then I like it even more. But more on that. I love that. Just keep that up. That's fantastic. We have a question from Mark Wright. With the new way TK is used, how would you rule on? Oof. Okay, so we're looking at a specific character, Alex Luthor, God of Apocalypse's attack power on that hit.
So this is
very specific.
Old character that back when TK was a thing you could. Alrighty, let me get Luthor up. He like damaged characters when he placed them or something.
Yeah,
I
so
think
that on hit he can use TK on the hit character, I guess too.
After resolution, he may use telekinesis at no cost to target a hit character. Oh, okay. So that's actually way easier. Yeah, I would just rule that he can use telekinesis to place the character. So in Heroclix specific rule, the specific powers of a character will always trump the general rules of the game.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would have so modern day we would have phrased this differently, as if it were friendly, just to make sure it's absolutely clear. But yeah, if someone brought this to like a local event, I would absolutely say, yeah, he hits, he can place them with TK.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
So is TK, is that a special effect that he had or that he has at the time, or is that something you could do back in the day where you can TK opponent characters? Is that something that ever
You
existed?
yes,
Oh wow.
back in the day, you could use something to place opposing characters, but you had
Oh.
to hit with a range attack to do so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So so I mean, as it now, just say he uses the current wording of TK, but he because this power is saying it has to target opposing character, that will trump the general rules for TK, and yeah, he would get the no, the just no need to make an attack roll. He gets the attack, he gets to place the character. That said, this is not official. This is just how I would treat it if
Yes.
someone brought it to a
Yes.
local event.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Here we have a question from Wesley Robertson. It's been about 5 years since the last major rules overhaul with the releases of Wonder Woman 80th. Is there another rules overhaul planned in the future? We've talked a little bit about this, but
Yeah. At the moment, I mean, there's nothing planned. There are certainly changes I would like to see happen. Like I have my list of when the time comes what I would want to do, but for right now, nothing is really seriously in the works there.
I hear you. And I think that's probably for the best right now. There's nothing that's emergence. There's no emergency as far as powers go or any game mechanic that's absolutely broken. So as far as for the sake of new players that maybe are barely learning the game, it would, like I mentioned, it would earlier in the stream, it would suck for them to be like, okay, well, here's a new power, a new set of powers, or rather some changes to a power I may have just barely learned. So I think the slower, the better, as far as that goes. What is Brian's cat's name?
Oh, so I have two cats. The gremlin in question is Hades, who is like a 20-pound black cat. He's not fat. He is just like very
Just bulky.
large.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he wants food, he gets up on his hind legs. He puts his front paws on my hip, and he's not stretching for that. That's just where they fall.
Jeez. All right.
So
He's got to pay for
if he
taxes or
yeah,
something.
if he wants attention, there's not much you can do to dissuade him. He's big.
Yeah.
The other cat is Loki, who is also a gremlin, but a more normal sized cat and much easier to just kind of push away when he's.
Shout out to those cats. Hello, hello to those
Yeah.
cats. Garrett asks, "How do I get to work for you, Brian?"
I don't have a good answer for that. I'm not the one that does hiring. Um, Best thing to reach out to Ryan Opalk. I know I don't have his contact info on hand, but he's looking to volunteering for events. It's a great place to get started. Get started. Most of the PT group and design group are people that were culled from events over the years. Not all of them are still at active events, but yeah, like if you're seeing someone judging, there's a good chance that we've probably done some behind the scenes work with them too. It's just a good way to get your foot in the door.
Of course, great answer. Anthony Bruno asked, this question is from Shobin. If you could pick one Heroclix figure to use as a keychain, what would it be? Great question.
Oh, geez.
So you want nothing too spiky, right? If you sit down and it starts
right.
poking at you,
Can't be too spiky. It needs to be something that's like nice and chunky.
Yes.
So like my go-to of anything of that is the we have the wall coming out in the next Spider-Man set, and I would like that's the perfect, not like nice chunky.
Yes. Yeah.
But on the other hand, as much as the wall is funny, I don't know if I necessarily want to be using the wall as the thing I carry around.
Like, what is that? Is that a Lego or something? What is that?
He's this obscure Spider-Man villain from one comic.
He's got like 2 panels, but yeah, he's a Heroclix now.
Oh, he had the entire strip. That was he was like the monster of the week. He shows up at I think it's a Mets game. So he was he's a construction worker, and like radioactive bricks fell on him and turned him into the wall. And he shows up at the Mets game to terrorize Spidey, and Spider-Man winds up like buying him a hot dog and talking it out, and then that's it.
I have never wanted a comic so bad. That's literally the best way to introduce villains. Holy shoot, that is awesome. Yeah, so the wall, I would say maybe you're thinking chunky. So I was thinking the first one that came to my mind because I was just using him over the weekend or the over the break was a cyborg from BTU. He's kind of well rounded. He's chunky. He's got some weight to him. I would hate to ruin him off a base, but that's probably a key change
Just
figure I'd have.
fishing around what's on my table here if there's anything that. Oh, hey, Worm mentioned him earlier.
Oh, there he is.
Uh,
Is that the Super Senses shape change one?
that super senses, shape change. Yeah, he potentially deals unavoidable damage to adjacent opposing character. He's fun,
He's goofy.
but I don't think. Yeah, not really. I'm not sure.
We'll have to get back to you on that one,
Yeah.
Anthony. We have a question here from Heroclix headquarters. Hello, Lucas. Hello, hello. Thank you for all the support on the series and for helping out with the pro tips. Thanks, man. Peaking, or speaking of circling back to old mechanics, I would love to see an Iron Man with the pilot trait or Tony Stark with secret identity. So not more of a question, more of a comment.
Yeah.
I agree. So we don't. Yeah. So secret identity is something I'm not very familiar with. I think the only time it's been around was with this Black Panther set, with the Spider-Man and the Miles Morales. So was that kind of like a pilot trait with the Ghost Riders, where like the character is KO'd and then they bring in a different kind of variation?
So yeah, Secret Identity was Spider-Man Absolute Carnage was the set that introduced that. I might be mistaken. So that was like civilian versions of characters, like Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, and then when they would be KO'd, there was a Secret Identity version of them, which was like the Spider-Man, the Ghost Spider,
Right.
that had a like separate dial on the back end of the dial. It would come in on that for a little bit. It's definitely a fun mechanic.
Yes.
It's difficult to find a home in a set because you need to do both the civilian and the costumed version of a character, which means devoting a lot of the set to one character.
Yes.
It's good things. I mean, like Tony Stark into Iron Man would be a really fun use for that mechanic.
Yeah.
Or like you mentioned before, piloting Iron Man suit. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we see a variation of that with the Collector's Trove with the Prime Iron Man. I believe they're both called Iron Man. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But kind of the same mechanics, just in a different, flavor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. If we did the pilot for Iron Man, the one condition that I would want on that is that that's not the only Iron Man in the set. Is he's very much a sort of like flagship character for Marvel. So if we're doing that Iron Man, I don't want the one Iron Man in this set to be. It's not really Tony. It's just the Iron Man suit, and you can shove whoever in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if there's a couple Iron Men to do, yeah, that's a great way to distinguish one from the other Iron Men.
Agreed. Okay, so he follows up with, are there any more secret identity or pilot trait characters planned for the upcoming sets? You kind of answered that you love the game mechanic, and the more the merrier, but like you said, you had to devote some of the set to those characters.
Yeah.
And devotion.
Pilot's Pilot's an easy lift. Secret identity is a little bit rougher to do, but I do like both.
To get into a set is very rare for any comic book character, unless you're the Wall, right? So there's always a slot for the Wall, but for Miles Morales and Tony Stark, we may have to hold off a little bit. Heroclix USA, hello Alec, shout out man. Both Heroclix headquarters, Dial H, Edison, Tabletop Games, and Heroclix USA. All, if you guys aren't familiar with those channels, go watch them. Great content. And colleagues of mine, so I always look up to you fellas. Thank you. Can you make more ragdolls, please? Asking for a friend.
Oh, the Flash villain? I'm assuming about the Flash villain, and sure. So my actual favorite set ever made was the Flash set.
Okay.
Which I understand I'm in the minority there.
So I've heard. I wasn't around the time, but I've heard. Yes.
And it's not that I have any particular connection to the Flash as a character. The design on that set was immaculate. Everything was very well centered on. They had the theme of speed. Speed was the thing for the set. The hero characters all had one way they interacted with the speed values on their things. The villain characters all had a different way. That it was just very tightly designed absolutely love that set.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, uh, I was gonna say something. It just left. Oh yes. So as far as I kind of get this feedback from you that you kind of like the lesser known villains or characters or heroes to be in sets, maybe more than the casual Avengers or Justice League.
Oh,
That
I wouldn't say I like them more. Just,
okay.
yeah, the oddball ones are always fun.
They're refreshing.
Like,
I agree.
right. The like if you're, if this is your 20th Spider-Man that you're designing, not there's you're running out of ideas. I'd say like there's always
Yeah.
new ways to print the character, but it also is Spider-Man. It's nice to stretch your legs out a little bit and do something that's totally different.
Agreed. Agreed. And it's probably refreshing for the designing team as well. Like, okay, how
Yeah,
can I make this Spider-Man a little bit different? It's a little bit tougher than, hey, here's the wall, and oh wow, this is awesome.
right.
Let's do some barrier or whatever he does. That's always refreshing for them. Let's see here. Wesley Robertson. Heroclix blind polls and Christmas advert calendars are a match made in heaven. Are there plans for more advent calendars in the future? If so, could the figures be randomized in the boxes?
So you'd be looking for, it's not necessarily the same figure in every advent calendar
Right.
type thing. It's certainly a idea. I don't know that we're doing more of them, but that's also not something that I would have any decision making process on.
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah, no idea. Sorry.
No, I think I like the focus that WizKids has been making around kind of like holidays. So we have the Harley and Poison Ivy that we had this last year for Valentine's Day Advent calendar, and then Beetlejuice was around kind of the October for Halloween, and of course the movie that came out. So I
Yeah.
love whenever it correlates with real life pop culture or whatever is actually going on. That's always awesome. It makes it more
Yeah.
themed, if you will.
Right.
Um, no pun intended. So this is a tough question. How do you determine how many figures are in a set, and if that's even something that you do at all? If not, then
It yeah, it is not something I have anything to do with.
perfect.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. That's
I,
fair enough.
if you want, I can give you the like barest of bare bones of how things go. So my bosses come to me with the list of figures in the set and how much they've worked out we're going to be doing, and
Yeah.
I take that list. We have a little discussion with them as to what their visions for the set is. What we come, what the Marvel or DC or whoever we're licensed with, if they have any feedback. So once I get that info, I will break the set down into little bite-sized buckets that we're then going to hand out to the design team. Have a little chat with them, get them all on the same page. They do their stuff. The designs come back to me. I polish them all up, make them look good. Make some tweaks to stuff to make the set kind of like gel together as a set, and then it's off to playtesting.
Yep. Yep. That's a fair answer. HeroClix USA Alec once again says, "My serious question: Is there any way? Is there any plans to add new color to the pack, as in new powers?"
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I can't say no, but that is the closest to no I can give. I think we have ample special powers as is,
Yes. Yes.
and if we need to step outside of that, we have special powers to do that.
Yeah, and if anything, like we mentioned earlier in the live stream, there might be some changes to existing powers, which may be easier and more probable than actually introducing new powers. Because I feel like all
Right.
the aspects of a hero have kind of been met with the powers that we already have. I don't feel like
Yeah.
there's and especially with special abilities, right? Like twists on special powers, perhaps like
Hmm.
Superman having hypersonic speed, but also can do a capital close or capital range. There's those kind of combinations kind of allow for standard powers to be not so standard, right? So I
Hmm.
think that's kind of how those comic book panels or movie panels or movie powers can be expanded on by doing that. Um, let's see. So this is a question on the Iron Man armors, Hall of Armor. Could you add Iron Man armors into sets that would go along with the trait from Hall of Armor's iconics?
So we certainly could. The one restriction on that, though, is that we would have to do multiple armors in a single set. I can't just drop one armor in that has this call out to a trait. Because if a player that doesn't know the iconics opens it up, they're going to be looking at it going, what the hell do I do with this?
Agreed. And I
But
think a better use is even like like we mentioned, the Prime Iron Man from Collector's Trope, where you introduce those characters, although they have a different effect from a different one, but that call-in trait or that use of that character also makes them very viable, despite maybe you not liking them, or you as a player may not liking them as an individual, but you have that use for them in a different mechanic. So I think that's what makes Heroclix so versatile and so different, in that you can maybe have a weird figure you didn't really like or you like so much, but you don't find it's like it's calling yet. But then here comes a motorcycle that makes that character viable now that it's got charge and super senses or running shot and stuff like that. So I think that's a great combination. You can be very you can customize Heroclix however you want with the equipment that exists and characters and different effects. David Jones asks, "Is there a point formula?" And that's this question. I'm assuming he's asking whenever you design a figure, is there like, hey, we give this character X, Y, and Z powers. His or their point value should be X, Y, and Z because of this.
So yes, there is a point formula. I can't discuss the specifics of that, but the point formula is not the end of the story. So
yeah.
we might use the point formula to guesstimate where everything's at, but the sets are going to go through a couple waves of play testing. Things are going to get changed and tweaked up from wherever the point formula, and we might throw the formula out for a given figure based on what the PT feedback says. So it is but one tool of many in the toolbox.
Agreed. And let's do one quick giveaway really quick. We have, yes, so let's do this one and then we'll have another one in about 20 minutes. So really quick, I'll re-mention this or say this again if you're new to the live stream. These giveaways are US only. Please email me to this email right above my head, your name, username, and your address where you would like to send. If you have already won an item or a giveaway, please do not participate. Again, thank you for participating, but let's share the love. These are all containing Marvel starter kits or DC starter kits, so there's really no reason to have two. Let's spread the love a little bit as well. So we've talked about speed, we've talked about attack and defense powers. Let's do damage powers. So Brian, where do you land on damage powers? Or they're very
outwit.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
There's a lot going in damage powers. A little bit more insight, or I'll let you expand on outwit a little bit. Maybe why it's your favorite.
I mean, for one, it works very well with poison. The just take away the defense and then ding them.
Yeah.
But it's also just very powerful to be able to say no to what the opponent's plans are.
Yes.
So, yeah. Outwit.
Outwit's very strong. A little insight on the how-to series that I created. I made it when I was talking to WizKids about how I should format these videos. It's really hard to talk about all four styles of standard powers: the attack, speed, damage, and defense. In a video, it's but unless it's going to be an hour or too long, there's just no way you can talk about them all. So I made a point to grab some that I feel that are very necessary for a team or essential for a team, which that is also very subjective, but I tried my best to be as objective as possible. And when talking about outwit, I believe I didn't talk about outwit. I don't believe I did. Mainly because it is so complex for a new player to learn, right? So it's like, what do you mean I just can't use this power? Well, this power negates or doesn't allow you to have that standard power anymore. It's like, it just really, I guess it's off-putting maybe. Gives them like a bad taste in them. Like, wow, man, I was depending on that defense power to reduce this attack from X, Y, and Z. So outwit's very strong, but my favorite is probability control. I think it's so fun. It's also like almost a defensive power in the sense that if you get crit hit, you get another shot to have your opponent roll. But I think it's just so fun, and we always say prob for short, just prob, and I love stacking up probability control. Okay, so we got starting with McConnell, ending with Jeff. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. We have 16, and we will be doing a double giveaway with this one as well. So let's click this 3 times. 1, 2. Oh, you know what? Let me start that over. I have a max of 18. Let's do that again. 1, 2, and 3. Number 5, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. David Jones, please email me your full name, username, and your address, please. Let me write your name down really quick so I don't forget. And the winners are getting, so David Jones, you will be winning a 2025 Marvel Starter Kit, 5 boosters of DC's Masters of Time, DC Heroclix Iconics, Trigon and Raven, and then the Hellfire Gala Premium Collection, X-Men. Jones, and then the second winner of this giveaway is gonna get DC Starter Kit, 5 boosters of Black Panther, and the Marvel HeroClix Deadpool and Friends High Five. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Number 2, we got Garrett Shanthorst. Please. Email me your name, your username, which might be your name, and your address. Congratulations. All right. Thorst. All right, so we are on the back end of the stream. Thank you all for tuning in, and of course, thank Brian as well in the comments. He's it's his day off, I assume, so he's out here hanging out with us. So thank you, Brian, once again.
Of course. I do have to get going in a little bit, but I've got like 45 minutes.
Okay, your call. Don't like I said, don't be shy. I completely understand.
I'm happy to be here, but at some point I got to go get dinner with the wife. So.
I hear you. Electric Football Hero asks, can Outwit be used when it's not your turn?
No. So Outwit is a free action. So if you look in the PAC, it's got the all caps free : so it takes a free action to use. You can only take actions when it's your turn, barring real corner case stuff.
And just to elaborate a little bit more on that, like Brian mentioned earlier with durations, now if you use Outwit during your turn, that duration will last throughout your opponent's turn, assuming that you still have the power, but it will reset when it's your turn again. So yes, if you outwit it, maybe an attack power that your opponent has or a speed power, they will remain outwitted. But as long as you use that effect during your turn. Yes. All right. Dennis Shaves asks, for onboarding new players with starter kits, are the products play tested with individuals who have no or little experience with the game to see how the starters do?
Tricky question. So personally, I can usually grab like a couple people from the warehouse or something and just like, hey, can I steal you for a couple minutes? Who don't really have a lot of experience with the game. I know our playtesters, some of them will try give them to their wives or kids to have them try to figure out. That said, by and large, they're mostly just run through the playtest groups. A lot of those playtest groups are people who've been playing for a while and have been teaching people how to play for a long time, so they kind of have a good idea.
Of course.
But unfortunately, it's very difficult to find random new people that are also NDA'd to show them things that are coming up.
And I will say that I'm glad that the players or the playtesters that have some years on them, I think it's easy for seasoned veteran players to reduce their experience level or to pretend they are new. Simply, and a lot of times you can tell with how much verbiage there are on a power. So I think the longer the power, the more complicated it tends to be for the most part. So when we just have a charge as Blade's character, I think it's a very easy character for a new player to pick up and know, hey, you know what, I can use this and I can do a whole turn by myself using that character and I shouldn't have any questions. Whereas when we start talking about maybe Pulse Wave with knockback, for example, or minimum 2 damage, where it gets a little bit complicated because they may read the power on the pack and it says, this character does 1 damage instead of standard damage or other damage, and then you start contradicting that, and that's I think where some players may lose some of that the easiness of learning a character. So, yeah, I think it's quite easy. Like I was mentioned
Mhm.
to Brian, I taught some new players how to play during the break, and I think I did a good job. I had already kind of completed for the most part the series, and it got to the point where they were asking me, "Oh, can I do this and this?" I'm like, "Wow, that's a great question." Like, I'm glad you saw that, right? You saw that opportunity, and you asked me to maybe combo these two things that maybe I wouldn't have thought on my first 2 days of learning how to play the game. So. People are quick.
Yeah.
They're on their feet, so they learn quick,
Mhm.
which is great. Let's see. Oh, so we have a lot of thank yous to you, Brian, from
Oh,
Mark. Um,
oh,
we want more of
thank
you,
you.
Brian, from Garrett. Um, and Jeff Dumas, I'm super late. Have we complained about Beetlejuice? Well,
Okay.
so
I yeah.
they're very aware. They're very aware
Mhm.
of everything that is chatted about on the groups, on the social medias,
Yeah.
and yes, they will make a decision depending on how they feel is more adequate for that figure.
Mhm.
Um, and will you be attending Champion Clicks Open?
I will not be attending Champion Clicks Open. I'm afraid.
Yeah,
One of these years I'd love to get down, but it is a rough trip for me to make at that time of
absolutely.
year.
Absolutely. So last we saw Brian and myself was
Mhm.
at Worlds, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't been to Worlds, I highly recommend it. We would highly recommend it for any experience level, whether you want to compete for the main event for 300 Modern or just do battle royales all day. I've seen players that do both and have lots of fun in either. Anything you want clicks rated, there is something there for you. I highly recommend.
Mhm.
Um, Heroclix USA, what are your thoughts on characters bypassing die rolls to land, hit, or deal damage? Do you feel like those kinds of powers and abilities are fun for the game as a whole?
So I mean, there's certainly powerful abilities. Do. I'm a big fan of poison. I
Yeah,
do think there's definitely a place for them in the game, but I can also say that I recognize that those sort of things are playing with fire. I think what we're kind of pointing to is the rivalry one shot, which like I think on the whole going to be okay, but one shots are new design space for us. If on the first go out we overstepped a little bit, we have to tone it back later. That happens, unfortunately.
I agree. I agree, and I think the criteria that the one shot rivalry that we're
Mhm.
referring to is I wouldn't say super specific, but having to at least share keywords is already kind of a hurdle that your opponent has to go through before he just automatically hits you. So there's a balance. I feel that is
Mhm.
compensated from that side of the design team that is like, okay, how do we make this not as strong? So I do
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um, and yeah, and I do agree that it should see some play before we're like, okay, immediately just with the hammer, just gonna ban that right out, outright.
Right.
There should be some sort of some test runs,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I mean, it wouldn't have gone to print if we weren't confident in it,
there
but
you go.
I said it's a new mechanic.
There you go.
We are still working the design space out on that one a little bit.
Exactly. They're also unique, so it's only once per turn or once per game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, um, yeah, and actually on those one shots, I do have a question for of my own.
Sure.
Um, those when after they are used,
Hmm.
you turn them over,
Yes.
and at the end of the game, those cards, those one shots that are turned over, are scored. So there's, I believe it's a Deadpool in that set, the Chase Deadpool that allows you to flip them back over.
I think all of the Infinity Gauntlet, maybe
Okay,
not all. I don't think Loki does. It could be mistaken. Multiple of the Infinity Gauntlet characters have ways to refresh the one shots.
perfect, perfect. So say those one of those characters, Infinity Gauntlet
Hmm.
chases, do flip it over and the game ends. Will those one
Yep.
shots be scored?
And if they are face up when the game ends, then they are not getting scored.
Wow. Okay.
The one caveat to that is if the game ends because your team got wiped, then all game elements in your force get scored.
Makes sense.
So
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. That could be some strategy there for some people that may not
yeah,
want to lose some points. I
right.
caught that and I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask Brian because that's the person I want to ask. Not I should probably have kept that to myself and then sent you a message so that I can go to an event and win that way. Um, Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, so HeroClix headquarters. Lucas asks, "I love that we're seeing new team abilities, i.e., the
Mhm.
Black Panther stealth, recently, like Wonder Woman and Wakanda. Any chance more new TAs are possible?"
Uh, so they're certainly possible. I think we're still working on getting all of the old wild cards updated to not wild card things. As far as like completely new ones, eh, tricksy. Yeah, we need to have a set that is like essentially dedicated to that team.
Yeah,
The characters on that team need to not already all qualify for some other team ability.
fair enough.
There, and there's just not a lot of you know teams out there that really meet those criteria.
100%. At least that are back to different IPs in the DC and
Mhm.
Marvel universe. Say we bring in something
Oh yeah,
else.
I mean
Um,
if we do a full D&D set at some point and we have I don't know what's the Harpers might
okay.
get a team ability,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Great answer. Great answer. I mean, I'll even expand on that a little bit. The question I would love to see revamps to team abilities that already exist that don't see much play.
Mhm.
Maybe X Men. Maybe Teen
uh,
Titans.
X-Men and Teen Titans I think are overdue for a tune-up. Yeah.
Yes, please, 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 please. I do hope we get some more Teen Titans soon. That's one of
Mhm.
my favorite comic families teams, and I would love that team ability to kind of have some more meaning to it. But I
Mhm.
get it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you, Brian. Thanks to you and the team and for the work that you put into the game.
Oh,
Thank you, Brian.
thank you.
For DC, a Flash TA would be cool. More on the TAs. I've always thought
Mhm.
a symbiote TA would be great, but maybe too similar to Scrolls TA. Fair point.
Yeah, there's
Um,
definitely other directions we could take. I mean, it could be like a plasticity type
mm,
TA2 or some
okay.
sort of not quite still energy for the whole leading people thing. There's yeah, there's room to develop that outside just plasticity.
There you go. That was actually a great point. You can even if you did the Steel Energy, you could also give it to the DC counterpart. Would be
Mhm.
the Black Lanterns. There we go. We're cooking now. We're cooking.
Yeah.
Um, Dennis Shave says, "I enjoy the evolution of terrain and equipment and now one shots. What would be another game element that you would love to add or reinvent? Personally, I would love to bring back Clicks FX."
Oh, the Eclipse FX bases. I love Eclipse FX bases.
Okay, fill me in on that.
Yeah.
What is that?
So, they essentially were these little acrylic. They were like a flat disc of acrylic that had a edge running around part of it, like a usually. I think we had
Oh,
like fire. We had like
yes.
ice wall. Um, so we did them in a couple sets, and they kind of fell out of favor. But like there was a Mister Freeze, for instance. When he hit with a range attack, he could give the ice wall FX base to the character. And I'm forgetting what that did. It locked him in place. I don't remember the exact mechanics. But like we had characters that give out fire markers that burned
Right.
or bleed markers that just let them take damage over turns.
Yes.
The most recent one that had a FX base, there was I think it was the release day OP kit for Wonder Woman 80th. She had a Clicks FX base that was her invisible jet as a bystander,
Wow.
and I absolutely adore Clicks FX bases. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of really cool design space there that we haven't tapped yet. So yeah, right there with you. If I get the chance to do anything, it's probably Clicks FX base.
That's awesome. I think the anything that makes the game more oh my gosh, I just lost a word.
It helps you represent what's happening on the map too. Like
Exactly.
it gives you a nice, very visual, physical representation of what's going on, which is
Exactly.
really easy to track.
Can't complain for that. That word's gonna come back to me. Um, let's see. Clicks USA. At the end of the day, you are creating, monitoring a game that is about superheroes punching each other. Do you ever step back and appreciate the awesome work you've done and the team have done? Great question.
Oh, absolutely. The I mean, it is work. Like I do have to get up early to drive myself to the office. The commute sucks. But at the end of the day, I'm my job is reading comics and doing creative math. It is a dream come true. I'm
That's
incredibly thankful
awesome.
for the opportunities I've had.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Let's wrap it up with one more question, and we'll do the last giveaway so that we can have Brian get some dinner. We appreciate the 2 hours that you've provided. Everybody here in the channel, thank you, Brian, once again.
Love to come back sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Of course, anytime. I mean, a little insight on the channel. I've already kind of talked to WizKids about maybe doing some more how tos. There's a lot to touch on. Like I mentioned earlier, silver, pulp, and theme events, and all that good stuff. So there is a lot of content, and the feedback from the community has been great for this series. So WizKids knows I'm more than available to do any more how tos. So hopefully we do have you back, Brian. We can talk about some more stuff that has happened from now to then. Okay, this is a great question. So this is a great question to end the question segment. So, any thoughts on making current slash future sets perpetual, meaning they don't rotate out but stay viable against upcoming sets?
Ooh, so that I'm actually very against.
Okay.
So the reason being, if we make sets that are perpetual, eventually you're going to have players that are joining the game that need to go back and try to find these year after year increasingly hard to get figures to stay relevant in the game. I don't like that. I understand sometimes that product treadmill of things rotating. Yeah, but it does keep the game fresh. It makes it keeps the game accessible year after year. I'm very much not a fan of something that just never rotates. That said, I can certainly see the argument for keeping things in rotation longer, or dipping back with the legacy cards at some point, like Galactus we had for 4 years, I think. So yes, some things definitely deserve to stick around longer, but ultimately everything needs to eventually rotate out, clear the space, and give us room to design new things without having to constantly worry about everything that's happened in the past.
Agreed, and that is just refreshing also for the game. You wouldn't want to see a super luckily Galactus wasn't overpowering in the meta game, but it would suck to have a character that's actually always there and you just never get rid of him. And like I said, it keeps it refreshing, and also allows for the design team, like you mentioned, to create more, at least referring back to older figures that may have already been rotated. So thank you, Brian, for that. Yes, so everybody in the chat, thank you for sticking along this long. We hit up to 132 views. My hat goes off to everybody. Thank you all. We will
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. We're going to go into our last giveaway. So this question is going to be your favorite figure of all time. So remember, we have 1:30 to answer in the comments. Yeah, Brian's already thinking. Which should I pick?
Oh man.
Yes. So go ahead, Brian. What are you thinking?
So I'm gonna have to give it to Arcade from Avengers Assemble.
Okay, the X-Men villain.
Yeah, like X-Men. He's been a couple. Yeah, X-Men villain. So we're pointing back to like the War of Light days.
Yes.
So the character had a gimmick. There was a map there was an Arcades Arena map, and depending on whether or not you were playing on his map, he had a front section of the dial that was just this kind of like measly little support character that wasn't really quite worth the 70 points that was. Or he was this like god tier, overpowered, could shoot through friendly characters, like monster of him, having the controls of Arcades Arena and making things happen all over the map. I did very well with it, and some of my teammates on Team Pusheen way back when, after the Worlds event, were making edits of me superimposed over Arcade's faces.
I gotta see that. Wow.
It's
Had I known that was your answer, I would have like maybe dug up that picture and posted it right now on this live stream. That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. It's funny because we, as you mentioned, Arcade AA,
Hmm.
commenter or profile user MU also said Arcade AA. He said nice, so
Hey.
hopefully I've mentioned it. So um, that is a minute and 30. My answer, really quick. I've always kind of said God Emperor Doom. He was
Oh.
before my time when I started playing, but as soon as I knew he existed, I had already read the Secret Wars that was
Hmm.
revamped in 2014 or 2016 or so. So when I knew he existed, that was super awesome. Sadly, he just wasn't ever really that good. I'll be completely honest. I won't sugarcoat it, but that is my pick.
I'm,
Um,
I'm always hesitant to pick a chase for a legacy card, but
yeah.
if we ever go back to Fantastic Four, I think that's one that really is calling for a legacy trade.
Yeah, reach out to me. I'll definitely put in my two
Yeah.
cents on that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 16, and 17 with Owl Fonzo being the last one. Thank you all for tuning in once again. This will be two winners as well. The first winner will be getting the Marvel Starter Kit, 5 boosters as a Deadpool Weapon X, the X-Men Hellfire Gala Premium Collection number 2, and the last winner and second winner of this segment will be DC Starter Kit, 5 boosters of Masters of Time, Trigon and Raven Iconics Clicks, Deadpool High Fives Iconics. Oh, that's not Iconics. I'm sorry. Just Deadpool and Friends High Five. And then the Avengers Hellfire Gala Premium Collection number 2. All right. For the first winner, we will click that 3 times. And we go 1, 2, and 3. Number 15. So I want to make sure it was 17, though, really quick. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yes, so we got Garviel Ben Yasharel. I apologize for butchering that. They said Eek from a super old set, Captain America based, I believe. Just a great tie-up piece. I love playing. Very
Yes.
similar to recent Venom Double M
Hmm.
from Black Panther. Congratulations. Please email me your full name, your username to make sure it was you, and your address, please. And the last winner, but not least, of this stream will be 1, 2, and 3. Number 1. Okay, who first? That's actually yes, Rory Zog. He's a local to San Antonio. Congratulations, Rory. He said Prime Nighthawk. That's the Nightwing
Oh,
and Green Lantern, I believe. Prime.
yeah. That you smush two characters together. It's a fun one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Rory, please email me your full name, your user, and your address, and we'll have this shipped to you as soon as possible. Once again, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time and joining
Thank
us.
you for having me. Yeah.
Of course, anytime this evening. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for asking these questions. From both the series on YouTube, from Facebook, and live as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Have a good evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And hope to see you guys soon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.